Namaste students. In the previous class we have discussed about the difference between the indices and also the different forms of indices. The difference between the indices, like the indices are different from sometimes the Sensex may move up by 100 points, but NSE Nifty may move up by only 40 points, that we already we have discussed. The main factors to be considered for index differences are already I discussed, that is the number of component stock, the composition of the stock and the weights, and lastly the base year. That is about the differences between from one indices to another indices. Okay. So, next moving on to in India we have, in Indian Stock Exchange we have two types of indices. Okay, two types of indices, already have discussed that. So, the indices of Indian Stock Exchanges are namely called BSCSensex, Bombay Stock Exchange Sensitive Index, and NSE 50 Index, that is National Stock Exchange 50 Index, we call it as Nifty, it is also called as Nifty. So, in that we have CNX 50 Junior and we have S&P CNX 500. So, we have sub kind of NSE 50 index. So, first one BSCSensex or BSC sensitive index. The BSC sensitive index has long been known as the barometer of the daily temperature of Indian bourses. Okay. So, in 1978 and 79, the stock market contained only private sector companies and they were mostly geared to commodity production. Okay. So, when they have introduced during the year 1957, so later on like they have implemented so many technical analysis. So, in that in 1978 and 79, stock market contained only the private sector companies and they were mostly geared to the commodity production. So, later on they have considered even public companies also. So, the BSE Sensex or sensitive index has long been known as a barometer of daily temperature of Indian bourses. So, here the Sensex measures the market price of the BSE. So, total market price will be reflected as a Sensex in the Bombay Stock Exchange. Here like a sample 30 companies were drawn. Okay. So, in the BSC Sensex calculation the sample of 30 company will be considered. So, with the passage of time more and more companies, private as well as public companies came into the market. So, when the sample 30 was drawn from them, with the passage of time more and more companies, private as well as public came into the market. So, even though the number of skids in the Sensex basket remained the same 30, the representation were given to the new industrial sector such as service sector, telecommunication sector, consumer goods, okay, and like FMCG products industry, then 2 and 3 wheeler auto sector, automobile sector, 2-wheeler and 3-wheeler automobile sector. So, all these have considered for the calculation of Sensex. The continuity and the integrity of the index are kept intact. Okay. So, here the continuity and the integrity of the index are kept intact, and so that the comparison of the current market condition with those of a decade ago is made easy and any distortion in the market analysis is avoided. So, why it is came into existence? Because in order to avoid the problems in the market analysis. So, Sensex helps investors, company and the society or a public in order to assess or analyze the market condition or a market behavior. So, by seeing the Sensex we can see the complete stock market behavior, whether it is in the boom or whether it is in the depression. So, we can easily understand by seeing the BSCSensex. So, here in order to calculate the Sensex, so they have considered so many factors. So the factors are broadly classified into qualitative factors and the quantitative factors. So basically they have considered 30 scripts, 30 listed companies. So based on the 30 listed company, the Sensex will be evaluated. The Sensex will be evaluated. So I repeat once again, in the BSc sensitive index, the calculation will be done based on the qualitative and quantitative factors, and here the sample 30 will be drawn in order to find out the Sensex value, So here the Sensex will be represented in terms of points, in terms of like 7,000, 8,000, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, like that it will be represented. So the BSCSensex index has long been known as the barometer of the daily temperature of Indian bourses, and it contains the market behavior analysis and it contains the technical behavior analysis. So completely the total market value or the price will be represented in terms of Bombay Stock Exchange sensitive index in this particular market, in this particular stock exchange. This is called a BSC sensitive index. So here there are so many methods to calculate the Sensex. So before we go for the calculation of the Sensex, so let us understand what criteria they will consider in order to calculate the Sensex. So already I told you, so two factors will be considered, one is qualitative factors and the one is quantitative factors. So the consideration of the factors for the Sensex calculations will be two, one is qualitative and the one is quantitative. So in the qualitative factors there are two kinds, one is industry representation and the one is track record. Another one is track record. Okay. So the industry representation means the industry come from which kind of category, whether it is like automobile or service or like food industry. So the industry representation should be there. So if you are considering the company, so that company belong to which industry, which sector, either food sector or a software or telecommunication or automobile. So you have to identify the company's industry representation, that is also the qualitative factors to be considered in order to evaluate the Sensex. Next, secondly, we have track record. So the complete company details should be available to all, like to companies, to investors and also to the government. So there should be the information of the company should be in the track record, means like whatever they have maintained the like accounts or financial reports or any kind of legal aspects oriented documents should be available to everyone. So it should be disclosed to the public. So then only we consider it for listed criteria. So these two factors will be considered in the qualitative factors. Next, moving on to quantitative factors for calculation of Sensex. So in the quantitative factors, two will be considered. One is market capitalization and the one is liquidity. So what do you mean by market capitalization? Market capitalization means the total number of shares outstanding. So total number of shares outstanding. So how many shares you have left for sales? Okay, total number of shares will be considered into market price per share. So currently how much price you have for your script. So we multiply these two. So whatever value comes, that is called as market capitalization. So whichever company has maximum market capitalization, that should be ranked as first. And simultaneously, whichever is lesser than the first one, simultaneously it will be considered 2, then 3, then 4, like that we will be rank the companies as per the market capitalization. That is also one of the criteria we have to consider for calculation of Sensex. Then secondly, we have a liquidity. So liquidity means the order cost, okay, the order cost of the investment or a particular scripts also to be considered. So if you invest the money today, so when the particular investment will be liquidated into cash within a short span of 1 year. So in the stock market, if you invest the money in any of the company, so whenever you want to get back the money, you can take it back. That is available in the stock exchanges. Okay, so that is also one of the criteria we have to consider. There should be liquidity. So liquidity means the particular marketable security investment should be convertible into cash within a short span of 1 year. So we call it as liquidity. So in the calculation of the Sensex calculation, so we consider two factors. We consider. So one is qualitative factors and another one is quantitative factors. Okay, so in the qualitative factors what we have? So we have industry representation, and second one track record, and in the quantitative factors we have market capitalization and liquidity. So these are the factors to be considered for calculation. So these are all the criteria to be considered. Okay, so factors also called as criteria. Okay, fine. Next, how to calculate the Sensex? How to calculate the Sensex? Next one, Sensex calculation methodology. Sensex calculation methodology. In the Sensex calculation, currently we consider free float methodology. Currently, free float methodology is adopted for the calculation of Sensex. Actually, it was started during the year 2003. Okay, so before 2003, like in the initial stages, the index was calculated based on the full market capitalization. Initially, they have started to calculate the Sensex on the basis of full market capitalization. So in the full market capitalization, the complete companies, all listed companies, market capitalization values have taken as a average. Okay, so on that basis, the value of the Sensex was arrived. So we call it as full market capitalization methodology applied for the Sensex. So in the beginning, before 2003, we have applied full market capitalization. First, what we have applied? Full market capitalizations. Okay, applied. Then later on, currently we are practicing what? Free float methodology. Okay, so full market capitalization, in that the total number of listed companies, market capitalization value taken, in that they will be generating average value. So that average value was considered for calculation of Sensex. So later on, after 2003, September 1st onwards, they have started to adopt free float methodology. So in the free float methodology, what do you mean by free float methodology? So in the free float methodology, they have considered only the free float market capitalization. Only they have considered free float market capitalization. So free float methodology also called as free float market capitalization. So here it is defined as the proportion of total shares. So how many companies it is listed, the proportion of total shares issued by the company. So how much they have issued from the company side. So total of that are readily available for the trading. So total number of shares will be considered, as it is we will take it, we will consider it. So that is called as free float methodology or free float market capitalization. So I repeat once again, in the free float market capitalization, the proportion of total shares issued by the company are readily available for trading in the market is called as free float methodology. So currently we are following this type of methodology for calculation of Sensex. Okay. Moving on, in continuation of that, free float factors like for each company is calculated. So here we calculate the free float, the factor we consider. So for that each company is calculated. So based on the detailed information submitted by the company in the prescribed format to the BSC, we take all the data and we take it as a free float factor. Fine. So then the market capitalization is multiplied by the free float factor. So whatever we take free float factor. So what do you mean by free float factor? So free float factor for each company is calculated. So based on the detailed information whatever they gives. So we take it, then we multiply that into market capitalization. Okay. So in order to determine the free float market. So if you take the free float factor, the factors will be like given by the market indicator. So we take free float market, we multiply that into market capitalization. Okay. So here we apply the formula free float, I'll write here, free float market is equal to free float factor into market capitalization, Okay, this will be taken for the calculation of BSCSensex. Okay, so here a free float factor na hege ನಾವು ತಗೋಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ like here they take 0.60, they consider 0.60, that means only the 60% of the market capitalization of the companies considered for the calculation of the Sensex. So in the free float, so we already know that market capitalization is equal to number of shares outstanding into price per share, market price per share, whereas free float factor is equal to, so 60% of the market capitalization whatever we have, we consider that. So we call it as a free float factor. This is how we calculate the Sensex. Okay, this is about the BSCSensex. Fine. Next, moving on to NSE 50 index, we also called as Nifty. So in this, this index is built by India Index Services Product Limited. It is built by India Index Services Product Limited and Credit Rating Information Services of India, that is CRISIL, Credit Rating Information Services of India. CRISIL has like built this Nifty 50 index. Okay. The CRISIL has a strategic alliance with the Standard Poor Rating Services. So here the Sensex Nifty will be considered in terms of standard and poor. Standard represent the high and the poor is the below one. So rating services will be given. Hence, the index is named as S&P CNX 500 and CNX Nifty Junior. This is how it is named. The NSE 50 index is named as CNX 50 Junior and S&P CNX 500. Okay. So it was introduced on April 1996. During the year April 1996 they have introduced this two methodology, these two the subtype in the NSE 50 index. They are CNX 50 Junior and S&P CNX 500. Okay, so why they have introduced these two? Chris Shield introduced these two. Why they have introduced? Because of so many reasons. So in that, why it is introduced? Because it's reflecting the market movement more accurately. So if you take these two, so it will give the clear picture on reflection of the market movement in a correct way. So for that reason they have introduced. So we can see the exact movements of the share price. Then providing fund managers a tool for measuring portfolio return. So it's one of the tool to measure the portfolio return. So we can aram se find out the market return of the fund managers. So for that reason they have introduced these two. So by having these two, we can aram se measure the fund managers market return, or we call it as portfolio returns. That is also one of the kind. And it provides a basis for introducing index based derivatives. So we can introduce the derivatives like index based derivatives with the help of S&P and the CNX. Okay, this is the basic thing we have to understand in the NSE, that is National Stock Exchange Nifty 50. So this is also called as 50 Nifty. Nifty 50 we also represent for NSE. Okay. Next, selection criteria. So what are all the criteria to calculate the NSE 50 Nifty index? So what are all the criteria we have to calculate? So criteria generally, the selection criteria are the market capitalization and the liquidity. So in BSc there are two kinds of selection, one is qualitative and quantitative. So here only the quantitative factors, market capitalization and the liquidity, these two factors will be considered in order to calculate the Nifty 50. Okay, in order to calculate the Nifty 50, so they have considered two quantitative factors, namely called market capitalization and liquidity. Fine. So here the selection criteria for the index was applied to the entire universe of securities admitted on the NSE. So whatever the companies admitted to NSE, so the universe of securities will be considered. So the sample test covers the large number of industry. So here the sample test covers the large number of industries group and includes equities of more than 1200 company. So here more than 1200 companies will be consider in order to calculate the NSE 50. Okay, so the market capitalization of the company should be more than 5 billion rupees, more than 5 billion, then only they are eligible to go for NSE market. Okay, this is how they are going to consider. I repeat once again, in NSE 50 Nifty index, the criteria will be considered as I said in the BSc, the quantitative factors will be considered. The quantitative factors are market capitalization and liquidity. So these two will be considered. So the selection criteria for the index was applied to the entire universe of the securities admitted on NSE. Thus the sample test covers a large number of industry group and includes equities of more than 1200 companies. So market capitalization of the company should be 5 million or more than that, then only they will be comes under NSE listed companies. Okay, this is about the NSE Nifty 50, and moving on to that, what is CNX 50 Junior? What do you mean by CNX 50 Junior? So the Nifty Junior also consists of 50 stock. Here illu kuda CNX 50 ಹೇಗೆ NSE 50 ನಿಫ್ಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ 50 ಕಂಪನೀಸ್ನ ನಾವು ತಗೋತೀವೋ ಅದೇ ಥರ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ 30 ಕಂಪನೀಸ್ BSc ನಲ್ಲಿ ಸೆನ್ಸೆಕ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ 50 ಕಂಪನಿ, ಎರಡು ಡಿಫ್ರೆನ್ಸ್. ದೇರ್ ವಿ ಟೇಕ್ 30, ಹಿಯರ್ ವಿ ಟೇಕ್ 50. But in the subtype CNX 50, the Nifty Junior also consists of 50 stocks. Illu kuda 50 stocks barutte. But these stocks belongs to the mid cap companies. Mid cap companies anta karitivi. So mid cap companies ali ಮಿಡ್ ಕ್ಯಾಪ್ ಕಂಪ್ನೀಸ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಸೇರುವಂಥ ಸ್ಟಾಕ್ಸ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ನಾವಿಲ್ಲಿ CNX 50 ಜೂನಿಯರಲ್ಲಿ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಫೈನ್. ಸೊ ಸ್ಟಾಕ್ಸ್ ದಟ್ ಆರ್ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ಗ್ರೇಟರ್ ದ್ಯಾನ್ 2 ಬಿಲಿಯನ್. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದು 5 ಬಿಲಿಯನ್ನು NSE 50ನಲ್ಲಿ 5 ಬಿಲಿಯನ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಮೋರ್ ದ್ಯಾನ್ ದಟ್. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದು ಕಂಪ್ನಿ ಸ್ಟಾಕ್ಸ್ ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟರ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ದ ಸ್ಟಾಕ್ಸ್ ದಟ್ ಆರ್ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ಗ್ರೇಟರ್ ದ್ಯಾನ್ 2 billion rupees are included with the objectives of measuring the performance of stock in the mid cap range, then only it will be considered. So market capitalization ನಿಮ್ಮದು ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಸೊ ನೀವು NSE ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟರ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಂದರೆ NSE 50ಗೆ ಬರೋದಿಲ್ಲ, NSE CNX 50 ಜೂನಿಯರ್ಗೆ ನೀವು ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಆಗ್ತೀರಾ. So based on the market capitalization we are segregating. Okay, this is about the CNX 50 junior. And the next is S&P CNX 500. S&P CNX 500. So CNX 500 also one of the sub market value of NSE 50 Nifty. So it's a broad based index consisting of 500 scripts. It's also a broad based index consisting of 500 scripts. The companies are selected on the basis of their market capitalization, then industry representation, trading interest and financial performance. So based on the financial performance of the company, then trading interest, ಅವರು ಯಾವ ಥರ ಟ್ರೇಡ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಮುಂದೆ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ, ಮತ್ತು which industry it is, the company, particular company belong to which industry, then market capitalization. So those factors will be considered. Based on that we are going to list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like that. Okay, so this is also one of the kind. So here market capitalization used as a weights. So by using the weights we will be calculating the S&P CNX 500. So weights means the total 500 companies will be considered as a 100. So out of 100 how you are going to proportionate the value of 100 weights into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 till 500. We call it as weights, market capitalization weight. So based on the market capitalization we are going to rank the company 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lakh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like that. Then weights will be given. So out of 100 how much for first company, how much for second company. This is called as S&P CNX 500. Fine. So this is about the indices of Indian stock exchanges. So generally they will be asking for 7 marks. So indices of Indian stock exchanges includes 2 kinds, BSE, Sensex and NSE 50 Nifty. So these two supposed to be written for indices of Indian stock exchanges. So again in NSE we have 2 kinds, CNX 50 junior and S&P CNX 500. Got it? Fine. Next moving on to stock market indicators. Moving on to stock market indicators. So what do you mean by stock market indicators? This is asked for 3 marks. So stock market indicators are like quantitative in nature and they seek to interpret the stock or financial index data in an attempt to forecast the market moves. Okay, so stock market indicators are the quantitative in nature, so which includes quantitative factors in order to have the interpretation of stock and financial verification of the index, so that attempt to forecast the market moves. Okay, so for that reason we have to consider stock market indicators. So here the market indicators are a subject of technical indicators and are typically comprised of formulas and ratios. Okay, so based on that we are going to find out the stock market indication. So I repeat once again, stock market indicators antandre quantitative factors to be considered in order to interpret about the stock or a particular market. So we are going to forecast about the market in the particular stock market indicator. So stock market indicators helps investors as well as companies in order to forecast the market moves in the future, and it will be represented in terms of both technical and non-technical analysis. Okay. So it aids investors investment and trading decision. So it helps investors to invest the money in the stock market, and also it helps the company for trading decision. This is what we call it as stock market indicators. I repeat once again, stock market indicators means it helps companies and investors to identify the stock performance, and also it helps the company as well as investors to forecast about the market moves in the future. This is called stock market indicators. So stock market indicators ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಮಾರು ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕಲ್ ನಾನ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕಲ್ ಇಂಡಿಕೇಟರ್ಸ್ಗಳನ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಾವು ವಿ ಆರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಫೈಂಡ್ ಔಟ್ ಲೈಕ್ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಇಯರ್ ಶೇರ್ ಪ್ರೈಸ್ ಹೇಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್ ಹೇಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಈಸಿಲಿ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್. ಸೊ ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ಸೋ ಮೆನಿ stock market indicators. Stock market indicators are broadly classified into two categories. One is technical indicators and non-technical indicators. Okay. So technical indicators means by using like what so many technical aspects we are going to identify what are all the factors will be influenced, and also non-technical apart from non-technical like currently the COVID-19 pandemic situation is happening. So how we are going to like predict about the future. So those things will be understandable in this particular concept. Okay. So technical indicators means, so by using some kind of technical tools and techniques, by using technical tools and techniques we are going to understand the market movements in the future. For that we call it as technical indicators. Non-technical indicators means apart from the technical analysis, like here we consider some kind of qualitative factors based on the situation, current situation. We come up with the indications and we will identify the like upcoming like share price movements in the stock market. So we call it as non-technical indicators. So in technical indicators we have main 5 indicators. We have main 5 indicators. In the first one, relative strength index, and we have moving average method, and we have next we have average directional index, average directional index. Next we have relative rotation graphs, and finally we have fifth one, that is Bollinger Band. So these 5 are the technical indicators. So ಈ ಟೂಲ್ಸ್ಗಳನ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಪ್ಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಇಯರ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟಾಕ್ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್ ಮೂವ್ಸ್ನ ನಾವು ತಿಳ್ಕೊತೀವಿ. ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ದ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕಲ್ ಇಂಡಿಕೇಟರ್ಸ್. ಓಕೆ. ಸೊ ಇನ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ relative strength indicators. Relative strength indicators is calculated or it is classified as a momentum, and it measures the magnitude of directional price movements, like price movements directions na helutte. and the momentum is the rate of the rise or fall in the price. The momentum, like the price rise and the price falls will be shown, and the indicators as an limit, like there is a line in the indication. So, upper line, mid line and the bottom line. So, upper line typically at 70 range, 70% of hike hodre we call it as upper line, and lower line is 30. If it comes to 30 level, the base level face value get 30 bandre, we call it as lower line, and the dashed mid line is at 50. The minimum average is called as 50. So, here in the relative strength index, the momentum and the the momentum and the directional share price movements will be identified, and the momentum is classified into rise in price or fall in price. Price ಹೇಗೆ ರೈಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಫಾಲ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ರಿಲೇಟಿವ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಂತ್ ಇಂಡೆಕ್ಸ್ ಏನು ಇಂಡಿಕೇಟ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದರೆ ವಿಚ್ ಆರ್ ಆಲ್ ದ ಕಂಪನೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ಬಿಲಾಂಗ್ ಟು ಅಪ್ಪರ್ ಲೈನ್ ಆನ್ ದ ದೆನ್ ಲೋವರ್ ಲೈನ್ ದೆನ್ ದ ಮಿಡ್ ಲೈನ್. So, we can take it. So, typically at 70 and above it is upper line, and 30 and below it is lower line, and 50 average is called as mid line, dashed mid lines we call it. And when price moves up very rapidly, at some point it is considered as a overbought. When RSI cross 70 ginta ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಬಂದರೆ, so that point is called as overbought. Likewise, when price falls very rapidly, tumba kammi ade price, at some point it is considered as a oversold. When the RSI cross 30 ginta kammi bandre, we call it as oversold. And the level of RSI is a measure of the stock recent trading strength. So, trading strength hegide anta gottagutte. So, I repeat once again, when price moves up very rapidly, at some point it is considered as a overbought, 30 and above, and when price falls very rapidly, at point we call it as oversold when the RSI cross 30. So, this is called about the relative strength index. Then moving on to the next one, moving averages. Moving average method is one of the oldest and most useful technical indicators in the technical analysis. So, here the moving shows a trend in the smoothened manner, and it can give reliable signals to the investors as well as the company. So, here we use simple moving average method, weighted moving average method that we have understood in the statistics first semester. So, we apply moving average method. So, 5 years ನಮಗೆ ಶೇರ್ ಪ್ರೈಸ್ನ ತೊಗೊಂಡು ಈಗ ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ಆವ್ರೇಜ್ ಈಗ 3 years ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ 3ನ ತೊಗೊಂಡು ವಿ ವಿಲ್ ಟೇಕ್ ಆವ್ರೇಜ್, ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಸೆಕೆಂಡಿಂದ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಥರ್ಡ್ ಫೋರ್ತ್ ವಿ ಟೇಕ್ ಆವ್ರೇಜ್, ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಥರ್ಡ್ ಫೋರ್ತ್ ಫಿಫ್ತ್, ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಫೋರ್ತ್ ಫಿಫ್ತ್ ಸಿಕ್ಸ್ತ್. ಸೊ ಆವ್ರೇಜ್ ಆಫ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಪ್ರಿಡಿಕ್ಟೆಡ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಇಯರ್. That is called as simple average, and also we take weighted moving average. So, weights will be given to the share prices, based on that also we will be calculating. So, by using the moving average method also we can predict the share price movements in the future. That is also one of the method. Fine. Next, average directional index, ADX ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. So, is used to measure the trend strength and is plotted as a signal line with the values range from 0 to 100. It helps investors to quantify the strongest zone and maximize the opportunity to build aggressive position. So, this helps the investors to quantify the strongest zone and also maximize the opportunity to build aggressive position. And increasing the average directional index value above 20 indicates that the trend is getting stronger. Okay, if it is above 20, the price position is above 20, that represent it's getting stronger, while it move by 50 generally indicates the exaction of the move, and it is an effective tool to navigate the trending market. So, in order to see the trend, we also use this average directional index. So, average directional index, it helps the investors as well as company to navigate the trending market. Okay, so here the strength of the share price will be plotted into like 0 to 100, and investors here they quantify the strongest zone, and they maximize the opportunity to build aggressive position. That is called as average directional index. This is called as average directional index. Next one is that is relative rotation groups. Relative rotation graphs. Relative rotation graphs are unique visualization tool to analyze the trend in relative strength of multiple securities. So, whenever the multiple securities comes against the common benchmark and against each other, okay, so on that time this tool will be used. So, the tool helps to identify the relative outer performance in the market and also in the particular situation, and helps to channel your attention to those areas of the market and it deserve it according to the market experts. So, it helps investors to have a right portfolio mix and participate in securities which are likely to witness the relative strong trend. So, this relative rotation graphs helps investors as well as the companies to see the strength of the securities whenever they have a multiple values, whenever they have multiple value against the common benchmark. So, on that time we use this one. So, here the securities are identified in terms of like outer performance and the least performance. Okay. So, based on the market situation we identify whether it is into outer performance or a least performance, and it helps to channel your attention. So, where you want to invest and where you do not invest. This is called as relative rotation graph. So, as the name indicate, rotation will be there. So, ali price kami iddaga you go and buy, illi jaasti iddaga if you have you sell it. So, we go for rotation graphs. Then lastly we have Bollinger Band. So, Bollinger Band it was developed by the person John Bollinger during the year 1980s. During the 1980s he was developed the particular indicator called Bollinger Band. Okay. So, it is a technical trading tool, it is also one of the technical trading tool. It arose from the need of the investors and the company. So, here they use both financial tools and statistical tool in order to predict the share price in the upcoming years. Okay. So, next year share price or after 5 years what will be the share price of so and so company. So, that can be identifiable by using both statistical technique as well as financial technique. So, by using those techniques we can easily understand or we can easily predict the upcoming year's shares value or share price. So, for that we call it as Bollinger Band. So, these are the technical indicators helps to understand or helps to predict the markets in the future. We call it as technical indicators. Okay. Then moving on to non-technical indicators. Non-technical indicators are we have different types of indicators. So, namely called first one turnaround indicator, then volatility, we have valuation, we have cash level, then fund manager participation. Okay. Fund manager participation. So, these are the non-technical indicators. Non-technical indicators are turnaround indicators, volatility, valuation, cash level and fund manager participation. In that first one, turnaround. So, currently the COVID-19 is happening. So, it is a pandemic situation to all the investors and to everyone in nation. So, worldwide it spread, the coronavirus spread. So, it is a pandemic situation. So, during that time, so how investors think, how they turn the investment from one particular sector to another particular sector, and how they diversify their mindset. So, that is also point to be considered. So, based on the psychological factors of the investors, so we are going to find out the stock market indication. So for that we call it as turnaround indicator. Next, secondly, volatility of the security market, so Sensex or Nifty. So how it fluctuates, so how the variation of the investment in the particular company also influence on the market price of the stock market. So ups and downs of one company, listed company in the BSE, it also influence on the market price of the BSE, isn't it? So that is called as volatility. So one share price, particular the dominant company share price movement also influence on the market price of the stock exchange, that is called as volatility. Then valuation, the valuation of the firm or valuation of the business. So valuation business is equal to market value of the equity plus market value of debt. Together we call it as valuation. So valuation is equal to market value of equity plus market value of debt. Put together we call it as value of the firm. So here we have to identify the value of the firm. So value of the firm is much, obviously the investment may be more and also the profit also goes up. This is how we categorize. So the valuation of the firm, if the valuation of the firm is good, if it is maximum, obviously the investment as well as profit will be more, and vice versa in the lesser valuation. Then the cash level in the country, like it is depends on the monetary policy. So in the monetary policy, the Reserve Bank of India circulate the money based on the necessity of the public. So it print and circulate among the public. So it controls the monetary power, it controls the monetary circulation or a monetary supply. So based on that we go for the investment. So investment of money on stock market also influence on the cash level. So cash level can be defined in terms of inflation and deflation through monetary policy. Then we have fund manager participation. So participation of fund manager. So fund managers are in continuous business process or only the one time business process. So we have to identify the type of the fund manager participation. So if he or she is regular, if the company is regular for the continuity of the trading, so then obviously even though the loss happens or a profit happens, they will be having continuity in the business or continuity in the trading. So if not, that is also influence. So those factors will be considered for the calculation of stock market indicators. So one is technical and the one is non-technical. Okay, this is about the stock market indicators and its techniques. Fine. This is about stock market indicators. So in the current session, in the today's session, we have understood indices of Indian stock exchanges as really BSCSensex, NSE 50, then CNX 50 Junior, S&P CNX 500, and factors considered for the calculation of Sensex and factors considered for the calculation of Nifty, and also we calculate, we have understood how to calculate the Sensex and stock market indicators. So these we have understood. Okay, this is all about unit 1 in the investment management. So we have completed unit 1. So you just go through that. Any doubts you have, you can ask in the online classes. Okay. So in the first unit, we have understood the investment meaning, attributes, economic versus financial investment, investment and speculation, features of good investment, investment process, financial instruments like money market instruments, capital market instruments, then derivatives, then securities market we have understood, primary market, secondary market, stock market indicators, types of stock market indices, indices of Indian stock exchanges. So those things we have understood. Okay. So first unit, it's completely theory, completely we have understood. Maybe you have a doubt, so that you can ask in the online class or in the regular classes. Okay. So second unit ಗೆ ಹೋದಾಗ second unit ಇಂದ ನಿಮಗೆ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ. So unit 2 risk and return concept. So theory you have a simple thing. So within one session we can complete. Rest will be problem only. You want we want too much time for completion of the second unit. So second unit will be continued by me as well as Impa ma'am. Fine. Thank you.